Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new week in the markets here at Taurex. It's very good to see you all. I notice, or you probably noticed, that I'm in a completely different background to what I'm usually at. Very thankful we've managed to get live today. I was a little bit worried at the beginning of the day that we weren't going to be able to, but the streams will continue as normal, and I've just posted the streaming schedule in the Discord channel for you all to look at. So a very warm welcome to a new week in the markets, to those who are watching live and also those who are watching on our Discord channel. It's very good to see you all, and if you do have any questions on the markets coming up, then feel free to put them in the chat section and I'll be more than happy to help, although I do know the majority of people at the moment are watching this on catch up. So we've got a very, very busy week in the markets this week. We have got pretty much volatility expected across all asset classes: cryptos, stocks, commodities, Forex, the lot, indices. And I'm going to try and break that down for you in a really, really simple way so we have an understanding of what to expect. We do have a couple of updates, or at least one update on one of the trades that I placed live on the stream a couple of weeks ago. That trade's now finally been closed out, and I want to go through the process at some point of how we then fill in the trading journal going forward. So that's something else we're going to do. If not today, we'll definitely do it on tomorrow's stream, because I actually need to update my own trading journal anyway, and I'd prefer to do that on the stream so you can see exactly how I'm managing my closed trades and updating my journal as we go. Okay, right, so if there are any issues with any of the connection or anything like that, please feel free to put something in the chat room. I'm running this for the first time and I'm just hoping that everything runs nice and smoothly, but we shall see. Right. Anyway, let's get into some of the big talking points of this week. Something that not necessarily was in our very, very busy economic calendars this week, but actually something that came out as a bit of a surprise to the markets early today. You probably would have noticed that we have tech stocks, or the stock market is down big. We have the Nasdaq down 3.5%, which is, trust me, for a Monday, that's pretty unheard of, to be honest with you. You can actually see the daily candle. Look how aggressive that was. It's even lower than that at some point. I am actually working at the moment on one screen, so I do apologise if it's maybe a little bit smaller than it usually is. We're in the process of setting up all that equipment over the next few days. S&P 500 down 2%, and really the reason that we're seeing such a big fall in the Nasdaq, for example, compared to the US 30 is because of this. Basically, news came out over the weekend about a battle of the AI titans, DeepSeek versus OpenAI. They're saying, and the rumor is, that China's tech giant, which is DeepSeek, could be surpassing ChatGPT. And as a result, what we've seen is a big sell-off in the US tech sector, the Nasdaq, for example, and an influx of money into China stocks because of this new development. So at the moment, you've probably all heard of ChatGPT, OpenAI. That's very much been the market leader in that sense, and all that money's been situated inside of the Nasdaq in terms of bullish performance. But now what we've seen is a potential rival, which is apparently a slightly more advanced AI model, and that is always the case when you get companies that do things first. There's always a thing called first mover advantage, and that's basically where you do something and then someone comes along and does it better. So that's why we're seeing this movement in the markets today. So this is a story which is developing, and in simple terms, it's a rival to OpenAI, a Chinese AI research lab, which is set to not just rival but potentially outperform the performance and the advancements of OpenAI and ChatGPT. So that's a story which hasn't really been in our calendars too much over the last. This was nothing that was planned in our calendars. The stuff that's planned in our calendars is very, very busy as well, because this week we have got a lot of high-impact news events. So when you think about the volatility that news story could be causing in the stock market in particular, and then you go over to an earnings report calendar which is absolutely stacked with high-impact news events in terms of high-valued companies releasing their earnings reports. Microsoft, Meta, and Tesla are all reporting their earnings reports on Wednesday after the bell, which is set to cause even more volatility in the Nasdaq. This could be with that story that's come out this morning as well, one of the most volatile weeks that you will see in a calendar year in the tech sector, which is typically very volatile anyway. So Microsoft, Meta, and Tesla obviously have a huge market cap. Their decisions or their earnings reports have a massive impact on the Nasdaq as well, and the individual stocks. So it'd be interesting to see if they miss on their estimates and on their earnings, we could see some serious downside this week on the Nasdaq. But an earnings report which is slightly stronger or beats forecasts will just steady the ship a little bit, and it's something that I imagine that the tech bulls will be hoping for. That's not the only companies that are releasing their earnings reports. We also have Apple, who are releasing their earnings reports on Thursday. So we were just absolutely stacked with companies. Actually, Apple just lost its status as the most valuable company in the world to Nvidia. So that's a development which hasn't been treated very well on Apple stock. If you look at this, we have seen quite a considerable sell-off in Apple stock. It is desperate for a positive earnings report and a positive, piece of forward guidance. Down nearly 16% in the stock since Christmas, basically, when we were meant to see a Santa Claus rally, which we didn't actually get. So that's a lot of things that have attributed to this, and one of the main reasons is because there hasn't really been the surge in AI in mobile phones like people thought when we experienced it in this rally. And therefore this sell-off has been from the disappointment, really, of how AI hasn't really taken off on Apple phones yet. It still might. It's going to be really interesting to see how that reflects in revenues, in earnings per share, and also in their language coming out. So that's on Thursday after the bell. So if you are a trader this week of any of those big tech companies and the Nasdaq 100 index as well, then expect plenty of volatility. Okay, that's the earnings calendar. We've also got a lot more coming out in terms of just standard events as well. So if I just go on our Taurex Plus calendar, you can see if I go to Tuesday, it only really starts kicking off on Wednesday when we've got we've got some inflation data out of Australia, but mainly if I keep going, you can see how many there are, high impact news events. We've got the Bank of Canada interest rate decision, and we're expecting a cut from the Bank of Canada from 3.25% down to 3%. So that'll be interesting to see if we do get that, and I'm going to do some analysis on that market in just a second. And the best currency to trade that against on Wednesday would be the US dollar, because we've got the Fed interest rate decision as well. So two central banks releasing their earnings report, their interest rate decisions, which is going to cause plenty of volatility. And the way that I was thinking about trading it this week was thinking if there's any disparity in the language between the two central banks. So if say, for example, the Bank of Canada are more dovish in their language, but the Federal Reserve are more hawkish in their language, or less dovish, then we can look for potentially some USD CAD upside, for example, or the opposite. If the Bank of Canada come out and they're not as dovish as we think, even though they've cut rates, and the Federal Reserve, which we're expecting rates to stay the same, we're about 98% confidence on that. If they come out and they're actually slightly more dovish than people expect, because a lot of that's already been priced in, the sort of less dovishness, then you might see the opposite. So I'm going to listen to those press conferences and read those monetary policy statements, and obviously break that down on the streams throughout this week to see if we get any disparity in the language, and as a result, potentially some trading opportunities on USD CAD, a market which I don't trade too often, but it's hard to ignore the fact that if you look at the daily time frame, you can see we've almost got this very large bullish flag. Like that. Okay. Really tight consolidation period that we've seen really since the middle of December. This market just hasn't moved. This week that could change. This week could be the week that we get some sort of breakout. So I have sort of a red alert on for myself in terms of how to trade USD CAD this week. So if I just study that consolidation period, which I seem to be able to draw it okay at the moment, you can see we've taken out the buy side liquidity. And we've taken out the sell side liquidity from this range. Liquidity there. and liquidity there. Okay, so for me, the next move that happens in this market is, I think, is going to be the decisive one. So I'm going to try and play now the breakout either side. So if we get this week, then we can look for some more upside. But if we get the market which is trading anywhere near this low, what might be a good idea is to and I don't really trade like this often, but is to utilize some buy stops or sell stops, which basically is where we place a trade anticipating the breakout. Now, I wouldn't normally do this, but because liquidity's been taken on both sides, for me, the next move I think is going to be the big one. I might be wrong. And so I have no bias in terms of what way I think it's going to go. I'm going to let the central banks talk and sort of give me that ammunition, and just let the price action talk. That's what I always say in the markets, just let the price action talk. So if we do get a move up towards the top of the range, which is basically this 1.44639, I'm going to utilize playing a potential breakout and retest, maybe a breakout above it, wait for an FVG or an order block, and then go boom. Or we get a breakdown below, again, wait for the break, look for a retest of some sort of FVG or an order block or whatever your sort of resistance area looks like, and the way that you study resistance, that's fine, and look for either one of those. And I think that's, for me, one of the best ways to trade Forex, which has been a difficult market to trade over the last sort of couple of weeks or so. Okay, right, so I will break down the what I'm expecting from the Fed. I will break that down for you when that decision is on the way. Now, as we move into Thursday, we've also got the ECB, so that puts a lot of emphasis on the euro. Again, we're expecting an interest rate cut, about 0.25% we're expecting. And again, the language is going to be interesting. We've already sort of priced in that cut, and that's going to be the test for traders. And for me this week is to not just necessarily think that because they've cut, that the currency is going to weaken straight away. How much of that has already been priced in, and how dovish are they in their follow-up comments? Because if it's a sign that we've cut for now and we're going to leave it, but the Federal Reserve are like, we're going to hold it for now, but we are thinking about cuts in the future. What you might see is, even though the decision would suggest euro-dollar upside, what we might get is euro-dollar downside. What we might get is euro-dollar upside. So another market which is very much on my radar. And I know if you've been following my trades this year, I've only actually placed a trade on the S&P 500 gold and oil. So I've not actually touched Forex yet. But this is what I drew on couple of weeks ago now, when this market was just sort of bottoming out and we saw some clear RSI divergence. We have now had the breakout. If I go onto the 4-hour time frame, and let me delete these drawings now because that was just hypothetical, you can actually see that we've just started to change. The momentum's just started to change. We've created a series of higher highs, higher lows, and now it's about trying to get in a solid support area. So this one doesn't look too bad. As you can see, we have got a break of structure here. We've broken up higher. We're in some resistance here, but I'm thinking about a trade that looks like this on euro dollar, and trying to play that a little bit higher. I think the problem I have with this is that in the sort of medium term, I do think the dollar will come back strong, but I'm thinking in the short term, we've come quite far and we've priced a lot in. I think there was a little bit of disappointment on the Trump inauguration. I don't think that lived up to the expectations. And so I think we may be able to see a little bit of a short time period of selling on the dollar, which would correspond to potentially some euro dollar upside. So I'm going to keep this trade like that, and I'm going to monitor that over the next few days. And that remains probably like one of my favorite trades of the week, and the ones that I'm really, really looking for in terms of Forex trades. Okay, and I think that's just about it. On Friday, we haven't got too much to be concerned about. We've got some European inflation. We've got the core PCE index as well, which is the Federal Reserve's primary gauge of actually measuring inflation as well. So yeah, it's going to be a very volatile week this week. It's going to be full of opportunity, but if you are trading, I would just be mindful of the fact we do need to, be on our game, be on high alert all the time, because there's a lot of news coming out. You could be in profit for a second and it could disappear, and the other way as well. So trust your analysis, wait for the news, Don't necessarily trade the news. Just wait for the markets to settle. If you're in that area where you want to execute always. That's what I always try and tell myself. And yeah, quick update then on my economic, excuse me, on my journal, which I'm trying to load up. I've only got one screen, so do bear with me. Here we are. So I wanted to give you an update on my S&P 500 trade. Actually, before I do that, let me show you first the analysis on TradingView. This just worked out perfectly. And there's a reason that we don't get greedy in the markets, and there's a reason that we have a take profit area, and that's why my take profit area was this all-time high, okay? Up at 6,100, 6,099 I think it was. You can actually see now the market's quite aggressively sold off because of the reasons we said. And if we were in a stage of being greedy, we may have held on to this trade thinking we could have kept going and going and going, but my trade was complete and I was out of the trade. And, you know, you could call it a bit of luck, but we took out the all-time high. Again, liquidity all the time. Where's the liquidity? Well, liquidity at all-time highs is very, very easy. That's always liquidity when we're at all-time highs or all-time lows if we're trading stocks. Took out that liquidity and boom, we went lower. But we managed to get 4.89 to 1 risk versus reward on that trade. And if I go on to my MT5, yeah, really nice bit of profit that we had there. Let me just quickly filter this. Last 3 months. $1,691. So if I just show you for transparency. Don't know if you'll be able to see it, but I'll try my best. Can you see that? There we go. So that was really happy with that. So now what I do always, and I try and tell myself, don't get emotional with the win. Take it. Look at go onto your journal, however you track your trades, and write it down. Get it in your calendar get it in your journal for the year. That's my goal to myself, is to make sure I do this for the whole year and don't slack. And now I've committed to it on the stream. I'm definitely going to do it. So let me just load up the. Here we go. And I just want to show you the process of how I fill this in. So I entered that trade on the 21st of January, and I was long, and it was the S&P 500. My entry price was 5,980. My exit price was 6,099. Really happy with that. 17. I do need to actually update this bit here, which I will in just a second, but it doesn't matter because I'm showing you in terms of percentage. 425 profit. Okay, strategy was FEG. I had a good confidence in the trade. I remember, being happy with the analysis. We had that tight triangle pattern on the higher time. Exactly the same trade as we've still got on gold, which I'll update tomorrow. Exactly the same trade. So I was happy that I followed that updates automatically this bit here that says win. Exactly the same thing. Perfect trade. Perfectly followed the rules. And it's always just sort of say how you feel when you place the trade as well. So I don't feel emotional about it. And you can see sometimes the things that I need to improve on as a trader, I've said on there, always follow rules and be patient. Anything can happen. And remove the emotion from winning. There's always, you can feel invincible when you go on a bit of a winning streak. And I've now placed 3 trades this year, and gold will be a winner even if it gets taken out at break even. And oil and S&P 500 have both been winners as well. I then copy this and put it into my master folder, which is my 2025 trades, like that. And that should Yes, there we go. 9th of Jan 25. I need to sort that out. But that will update. I don't know why that's in February, but I will update that. F4. Yeah, I'll update that. But that should be in January. So that's 8% total profit for January with gold running as well. So I'll update the formulas there. This is something I built literally not too long ago. So yeah, that's a good thing, of course. And I will continue to update and show you my trading journey throughout this year and throughout this week, of course, because it's a very busy one. Don't think we've got any questions. So yeah, if you are watching on catch up or whatever you're watching on, I do hope you all have a fantastic trading week. Thank you very much for tuning in today. It's late here, so I'm going to go off and get some food, and yeah, I'm going to continue to monitor gold. It's the only trade I now have open. I'll show you a little bit more detail on that tomorrow, and yeah, should be a busy week. I think tomorrow is probably the first or the only day where we may not see as much movement. But Wednesday, we've got all of those decisions. We've got the big tech earnings. Thursday, more decisions, more big tech earnings. So we should be really, really busy from Wednesday. Okay, thank you very much. Trade well, take care, and I'll see you all soon.